This one's going to be different. On a weekend where there was a lull in college football as the playoff teams are essentially going through a bye week, getting ready for this weekend's games. And this created a vacuum for me as I didn't have any games to analyze and react to, and really was kind of stumped a little bit for about 3 or 4 days. And then the weekend rolled around and Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia rolled into New York City for the Heisman Trophy ceremony and provided all the ammunition I needed for today's video. This is QB Unfiltered, my take. What a freaking embarrassment.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever...
Okay guys, over the weekend, the most prestigious award in college football, probably even the most prestigious award in all of sports, was presented in New York City at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Indiana's quarterback Fernando Mendoza won the trophy, as he should have, and in today's video, I'll touch a little bit on the reasons why I think he was so very deserving of this award. But it was the behavior and the actions of Vanderbilt's quarterback, Diego Pavia, that really made headlines. And in my opinion, what we saw this weekend really represents the fence that college football is sitting on right now. The fence. On one side of that fence, you've got what college football should be, what college football used to be. All of the things that college football provided for a number of people. And most importantly, the players, the life lessons, the character building, everything that these guys needed to move forward to be productive members in the society, be great husbands, and be great fathers. Those were the skills. Those were the values. That's what was taught and should be taught with college football, along with the competition. And if you're good enough to play in the NFL, you go and make your money there. The other side of the fence, which the last couple of years, I see it more and more. That's the ball being rolled out on the field. You guys do what you want to do. Embarrass yourself, embarrass the game, just do your thing. And it's not just players either. It's coaches too. And so the game of college football is right there, I think, teetering. It could go either way. It used to be about competition, and it used to be about role models for young kids. And now it has morphed into what I like to call drama, nonsense, and bullshit. And unfortunately, if the adults in the room don't stand up and make their voices heard and get this thing corrected, then it's going to continue to push college football off that cliff into free fall shit show. As always, like and share out this video to your buddies. That really helps my channel out. Pass the word if you enjoy my content on quarterback play, and subscribe to the channel, QB Unfiltered. I really appreciate the support. Okay, ever since I started this channel, I've sort of danced around this topic of where I think athletics is going and how college football has completely ruined itself and turned itself into the wild, wild west. And, I've stated my thoughts and beliefs and opinions on how the transfer portal, I think, has completely ruined the development of college quarterbacks. And guess where those guys go when they're done playing college? To the NFL. And all the things that we have stop teaching these guys at the quarterback position in college football. Now, I've always tried to stay professional when I'm skirting around this issue and sort of talking lightly about it. And I'm going to try to take the high road today, but this is going to be pretty much a rant the entire video, because what went down in New York this weekend with Diego Pavia is just totally unacceptable. And I'm sure when the camera's turned off at the end of this video that there's going to be a whole bunch of material that's going to end up on the cutting room floor. And like I said, I'm going to try to stay positive and take the high road. And here we go. We're going to talk about 5 or 6 things. This is number 1. Let's start with the Heisman Trophy and what it represents and who represents it. Yes, there are some biases in the voting for the Heisman. And yes, the best player in college football doesn't always win the award. You know, it's kind of position driven, quarterbacks and running backs, for example. But I would say mostly these guys get it right. The voters get it right. And everything about the Heisman weekend is prestigious. Everything. It's first class. It's top drawer. It is the showcase for college athletics. It's the showcase, obviously, for college football. And it has always been done in a high level manner and been executed by guys that when you watched the Heisman ceremony on TV, you knew you were looking at four guys sitting in the front row with their coaches, head coaches sitting behind them and family members. You knew you were looking at four guys that got it, that understood, that were solid guys, that had great values, that understood what the game was all about. And if they were quarterbacks sitting in those four seats, you knew that they knew what the position entailed and all of the responsibilities that come with being the starting quarterback. Not just the starting quarterback that's one of the finalists for the Heisman Trophy. Those four guys sitting in the front row of the Heisman, they represent classy, the way it should be done, student athletes, okay? Representatives of the sport and their schools, and ambassadors of the sport of football, college football. Now, of those four guys sitting there this weekend, three of those dudes, they represented, okay? Jeremiah Love, the running back for Notre Dame, Julian Sayin, the quarterback for Ohio State, the winner quarterback from Indiana, Fernando Mendoza. And then you've got the one guy that just didn't quite get the memo, and that's Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia, which leads us to the second point. Let's jump right into this guy's boorish and bullshit antics while he was in New York. And we'll start it off with this beauty right here. After the ceremony and after he had finished second in the voting, he thought it would be a brilliant idea to go on his Instagram account and say, F the Heisman voters, and send it out to social media. Brilliant. That is a brilliant move. And you can bet that somebody in his universe, somebody in his crew, somebody in his inner circle pulled him aside and said, hey, dude, you need to delete that and you need to scrub it off your Instagram account because that wasn't good. It wasn't smart and it wasn't a good look. But the damage was done. You know, that little Instagram post is going to haunt Pavia for the rest of whatever his football career ends up being. That is going to follow him around. Totally unbelievable stuff. But this guy doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. Okay, then we move to the post-Heisman ceremony. And, you know, I don't know what these other guys were doing. You know, for all I know, they were spending time with their family, you know, spending time in the hotel, going out and seeing some of the sights. I don't know. I do know what Diego Pavia was doing. So he ends up on some more social media posts on videos where he's in a club, which is cool. You know, that's fine. He's in a club and then they're passing around an iPad that says F Indiana. And our guy Diego is given this and given this to the iPad, to the notion of F Indiana, to the camera, to everybody in the world that's going to be watching that video. This kid doesn't get it. In his mind, okay, in his mind, it's all about him. It's all about him being a badass. It's all about him being the rebel. It's about him being the underdog, the guy that wasn't recruited out of high school. Think about that one for a second. The new age quarterback. You know, Cam Newton's got a real interesting take on the new age quarterbacks. And, man, that should scare the hell out of everybody that appreciates good football and great quarterback play and knows what successful quarterback play is all about. We'll do another video on that down the road. Did I say Diego Pavia doesn't get it? Every dumbass thing that he did in New York City, every Instagram post that he put out there, every video that he uploaded to social media was shouting Vanderbilt Commodores football. It was all a reflection of Vanderbilt football, but he doesn't get it. Quarterbacks, high-profile quarterbacks that take programs that have been in the dump for years, decades, and leads them pretty close to the promised land and ends up in New York at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. There are responsibilities that come with that. It's part of the job, right? He doesn't get that. I'm not going to get into any philosophical deal about everything the QB position entails. I will say this, though. One of the things that comes with it is playing quarterback at any level. You get way too much praise when things go right, and you get way too much criticism when they don't. But that's part of playing the position, right? And you have to represent. It is that important. There are things you have to do as a quarterback that go far beyond what you think should be happening in your brain and how you think you should behave. But he doesn't get that. You know, I had a coach tell me this a long, long time ago, and it is 100% true. As a quarterback, at every level you're playing at, everything you do on the field, off the field, is a part of your resume. It's a part of your resume because people are always watching. And if you're trying to enhance and expand and climb the ladder in whatever career you're chasing, in this case, it's professional football. That's resume stuff, Diego. We'll talk more about that here in a bit. Okay, that leads me to number 3 here. You know, where in the heck were the coaches from Vanderbilt at? And what I'm talking about is you cannot tell me that the head coach, the quarterback coach, whoever, the shaman that they've got working there in the football facility didn't sit this kid down before he left to go to New York and tell him, break it down for him what he needed to do while he was there, how he needed to present himself, how he needed to represent the program, and probably more importantly, what not to do. Okay. I followed this kid. I followed him this whole season. Before the weekend started, before the Heisman weekend started, just watching post-game interviews with him after games this year, I knew this dude was a loose cannon. So it didn't surprise me when I found out exactly what went down Saturday in New York. That didn't surprise me. You can't tell me that coaches and support staff at Vanderbilt didn't see that stuff coming also and didn't sit this guy down and spell it out for him. You know, in this coaching stuff, again, there's going to be a show dedicated just to this coming down the pike in the off season. I was going to do it last year. And then, you know, like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm trying to stay on the professional side of doing this show. And this type of stuff that we're talking about today with not only players, but coaches and the way that football is going, that fence that it's sitting on, man, that irritates the hell out of me. But I think that we're in danger, you know, of the possibility of this thing slipping away if the coaches don't wake up and get back to discipline, mentoring, and running programs the right way. Now, I'm not even going to get into the other sports like women's college basketball, where for the last couple of years, I watched teams just do dumb shit stuff on the court and make really stupid decisions, you know, and look at the head coach just looking the other way. And that's called player empowerment, you know. And the one thing I want to say about player empowerment is if you want to kill your team, if you want to kill your league, if you want to kill your sport, institute player empowerment and turn things over to those guys. That can't be the way that college football and college athletics is going. This cannot be that way, because if it continues to slide in that direction, it's going to be the final push off of that cliff. And then the sport of college football and college athletics is going to be in free fall. Player empowerment. So check this out. This may blow some of you guys away. If there are any coaches out there listening to this video, I'd be interested to hear what you think about this. I'm 100% with this. And at the end of what I'm about to say to you, the percentage that I give you might be low. Okay. If you took a survey of every Division I head football coach in the country, from West Coast to East Coast and everywhere in between, all Division I head football coaches, and you ask them one question, and they had to be totally honest in their response. And the question is, in your locker room with your roster, and let's take 85 guys. You got 85 guys on scholarship at D1 level. In your locker room with 85 guys, what percentage of those 85 guys are immature, dumbasses, bad decision makers, shit disturbers, locker room lawyers, toxic, bad dudes? If they're honest, and they've got to be honest, I'm saying that that percentage, the average percentage of every coach of an 85-man roster in his locker room would probably say 40% of my guys fit that criteria. And that's just a fact. That is just a fact. And so what's the coach for? Besides teaching technique and scheme and all that stuff, the coach is there to run a disciplined program and keep the bullshit tamped down and hopefully change the outlook and thought process of a lot of guys in that 40% range. Well, I think we're losing that if you give the game over to player empowerment. And you know, the brain surgeons and morons at the NCAA and whoever else the power brokers were that decided on the transfer portal and the NIL stuff, you guys are just pushing it. You pushed it in the wrong direction in a hurry. But that's a show for another day. Okay, next one, number 4. The difference not only between the 4 finalists for the Heisman, but the difference between the winner, Fernando Mendoza, and the runner-up, Diego Pavia. This couldn't be more stark. Mendoza is exactly what you want for a Heisman winner in all the categories involved in what makes up a Heisman winner. Because Diego, it is much more than just physical ability when the ball is snapped. And you can bet on every year. And I talked about biases in voting sometimes, and certain positions maybe get, voted for over other positions. But you can bet that those voters are taking into consideration a lot of the other outlying factors like character and how you present yourself and the way you carry yourself and all of that stuff, leadership, everything. Fernando Mendoza represents the University of Indiana, his coaching staff, his teammates, who he's always talking about, and his family, and now the Heisman Trophy with the utmost respect. I think you can tell a whole lot about a guy, and we're talking quarterbacks here. I think you can tell a whole lot about quarterbacks by what they say and how they handle themselves when they've got a microphone stuck in their face, either standing on the field right after a game or when they go to the press room to meet with the media after a game. There is a right way to handle those interviews. There are the right things to say in those interviews. And then there's the other way. Now, I spoke about Mendoza in the last video I did after the Big Ten title game and the win against Ohio State. They interviewed him after the game on the field, and it was a masterclass in how to do it. It was perfect. It was perfect. And when he walked away from that interview, I'm sure that everybody across the country that watched that went, that's a stand-up, solid leader, quarterback, great teammate. That dude, Fernando Mendoza. And, when he won the Heisman, he got up and gave a great Heisman speech. Now, you've got, slapdicks out there like Skip Bayless. This guy, I say Diego Pavia doesn't get it. Skip Bayless and most of the sports mainstream media dudes that talk into a camera every day, most of those guys don't get it either. Don't know if the ball's pumped or stuffed. And Skip had this brilliant take that, number one, Mendoza shouldn't have won it, should have been Pavia. And number two, Mendoza's Heisman speech, his acceptance speech, sounded rehearsed and scripted. No shit, Skip. That's called being prepared for what you're going to say in front of the world. Everyone associated with the Heisman Trophy in college football this past weekend benefited from Fernando Mendoza winning that award. Everybody. Next, number 5. Hey, coach, come on, man. He's just a young guy, even though he's 26 years old. He's just expressing himself. He's just letting off steam. Plus, he apologized. He walked it back. Right. That stuff doesn't fly. I'm not going to repeat myself on all the other things that I've said, but I know that this is out there. And I know I'm probably going to get comments on this video from dudes out there, saying that I'm being way too harsh on him and, he's all the stuff I said. So I'm not going to rehash it. What I will rehash though is when it comes to playing quarterback in college football, when it comes to being a finalist in the Heisman Trophy ceremony, there are certain things and certain ways you represent yourself and certain ways you act. And there are certain things you don't do. But like we stated earlier on numerous occasions, Diego Pavia doesn't get it. And that leads me to this last point, number 6. Diego, what do you think every NFL front office personnel guru was talking about this morning, Monday morning? Talking about you. And what do you think they were discussing? Did you not pay attention to the dude that's playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns right now and what he did to sabotage his draft stock last year? Were you not paying attention to that? That's amazing to me. And if you're under the impression that taking the Johnny Manziel approach to playing quarterback in college football and the Manziel approach to mugging for a camera and the Manziel approach for doing dumb shit stuff, and you think that that's going to get you to where you want to go, man, I don't think so. Now, I'm pretty confident, knowing the history of these NFL front offices, that one team is probably going to end up drafting you in the 7th round. They're going to go, they're going to sit in their war room and go, this guy finished 2nd in the Heisman. We got to draft him. And they're going to waste a draft pick and then kick themselves in the ass, because in the NFL, and this blows my mind, in the NFL, character, toxic leadership skills, or no leadership skills just doesn't enter into the thought process or conversation when it comes to drafting QBs. That's amazing stuff. Okay, so there it is. I'm sure, like I said at the beginning of this, a whole bunch of stuff that I just said in the last 45 minutes is going to end up on the cutting room floor when I come to my senses and realize that I'm going to take the high road in this video, but I'm going to leave some stuff in just for kicks. And I also want to thank Diego Pavia for really inspiring me, for, really having no direction on what kind of video to do with no games going on this weekend. Thank you for the kick in the butt with your actions in New York over the weekend. Hopefully this dude gets a group text from the NFL front offices that collectively says, Diego, enjoy your time in Canada playing in the CFL. Okay, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Did I get it right or did I get it wrong? This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.